Thank you, Scott. It's nice to see everybody here and everyone in a good mood. I appreciate that. And nice to see my colleagues here for an earlier than usual Committee of the Whole meeting. I appreciate making that special effort to do that. So at this point, I'm going to call to order our Monday, June 16th Committee of the Whole meeting of the Kalamazoo City Commission. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Cooney. Present. Commissioner Decker. Commissioner Hoffman. Present. Commissioner Pradel. Present. Commissioner Wilson. Present. Vice Mayor Hess. Present. Mayor Anderson.
Here. Thank you, Clerk Borling. May I have a motion to excuse Commissioner Decker?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Cooney.
Second.
Okay. Supported by Commissioner Wilson. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. Motion passes. Communications, Manager Isma.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Now, as with every public meeting, there is an opportunity for public comments. Since this is a committee of the whole, just a reminder, the public comment period is just 2 minutes rather than 4 minutes, as at our regular business meeting. So if there's anyone here who would like to make a public comment for this meeting, now is your opportunity to come forward.
Good evening to our mayor, our vice mayor, and commissioners, staff as well. My name is Charlotte Davis with Isaac. I wanted to lift a few things before getting started this afternoon. By starting at 4 o'clock, that does unfortunately exclude those workers who work from 9 to 5. And I believe this is probably live streamed. I hope so. But again, community input is so important during a time like this. So we're just asking that you please allow opportunities for collective engagement beyond this public comment tonight. And please do so by giving time for community members, if it is live stream, to be able to watch this via live stream so that they can give you input. And then I did want to also lift that I understand that this probably feels like a very urgent time, just in many different ways. But when that happens, as Isaac family, we always have to discuss the sense of urgency. And we have to be mindful that a sense of urgency can be harmful. Oaken reminds us that a sense of urgency can lead to exclusion of voices, exclusion of new ideas, and that are being lifted. And so I know as an organization ourselves, we try to be mindful of urgency. I respectfully ask that you all as well just be mindful of that sense of urgency. What we don't want to happen with any of us as we're doing this work is unintended harm happening as we're trying to get to the goal, the process of getting there. So I did want to lift that. And then lastly, time and time again, I know folks are coming to the microphone and they're asking you all to please allow them to be able to give you their voice or to share, their thoughts on the process that you all are going through as well, or the work that you're doing. So we just say, please take some time, hold, reflect. I do hope that you all are not planning on making a decision tonight after the interviews, but that you allow community to give you input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Meg Adams, and I do reside in the city. I know I wrote a letter to all of you, and I appreciate the response back. I just want to reiterate, similar to the speaker before me, that as you do move forward in these steps, we would like to see you have community input. And I think it would just even be nice to know that we're included in this from the beginning, and that there's a place and time that you're saying, yes, we're looking for you to provide some input for this during this timeline and so on. I know that for myself, part of my address here was about the using of a rubric and excluding one of the firms that was very close to the third place that you chose to interview today. And again, I feel like that was a missed opportunity, and I wish there would have been more discussion about that. And I think if you had had community input, we probably would have encouraged you to look at that firm closer, and maybe you wouldn't have decided with it, but at least have some discussion more around it. And I think today, as you do your questioning with these firms, I hope you can flesh out their claims around diversity. with CPS, 57% placed were people of color and/or female. What does that mean? Ralph, tell us, 39% female, 21% people of color, and again, their percentages, but there's not really much context behind this. SGR, 33% female, 31% people of color. And again, I think my concern when we see these kinds of things is often it's white women that are the biggest beneficiaries of inclusivity statements. So I hope you guys get an opportunity to kind of flesh this out with some of these firms and these, today. And again, the one firm that you're not interviewing, I think they made the best statement in their proposal. And so I want to read part of that today. As a minority-owned and operated organization, we have a particular sensitivity to the challenges of recruiting a diverse.
Thank you. Yeah, next, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commission. I'm just going to finish reading what she has started because I think this was very important. As a minority-owned and operated organization, we have a particular sensitivity to the challenge of of recruiting a diverse slate of candidates. One of these challenges is the high degree to which traditional, long-standing professional associations and the networks that they generate tend to replicate an ecosystem that is not inclusive. Our one-of-a-kind network of professionals, along with our membership in several professionals, minority associations, and organizations, and our use of competitive intelligence will unearth candidates that other firms are sure to miss. And so that was from the last group that she was explaining that did not make it, but was also very close. So going back into the diversity, equity, and inclusion, I always want to keep that at the forefront because sometimes people say a lot versus doing a lot. And so these presentations are going to be important. Keep community in it. And that was the thing. Allow us to just have a voice, even afterwards, because we can't speak on what they're saying if it's beforehand. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to take advantage of this opportunity for public comment? Seeing no one else, I want to thank everybody who attended, took the time, and made the effort to come here, provide us with some initial public comments. And now we are down to the work of this evening, Manager Ritzma.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would like to turn the meeting over to James Henderson, our HR Director, and he's going to introduce our topic of executive search firm presentations for the city manager search process. James?
Welcome, Mr. Henderson. I say to here.
Good evening. Today, at this meeting, we're actually going to put before the commission 3 firms that were finalists for our city manager search. The first firm will be SGR, which is a search firm based in Texas. Then we also have CPS HR, and then Raftelis. So I think we're going to go ahead and kick this off by inviting SGR. I think they're going to be the first ones.
Just a little question about format here. Have they been given some instructions about the time frame for their presentation and time for questions and that sort of thing? How's that?
Yes. If you look at the, it's not the rubric, it's the other sheet, which basically has it spaced out on how much the total presentation should last about 30 to 35 minutes, which should leave about 15 minutes for questions. Because we're going to try to keep this on an hour.
Okay, and you have helped the committee come up with some standard questions that we're going to ask, correct?
Yes.
Correct, and there's 7?
There's 7 questions. Each commissioner should be able to ask at least 1 question.
Okay.
So hopefully, looks like we have 1 maybe, so someone may have to double up if we, whatever direction you guys want to go in, but yes, there will be 7 questions.
Okay, thank you. And then we have a sheet for us to keep track in terms of our own evaluation? Will that be available to us, or is this?
Yes, you have the questions, and I think as they start, Patricia's going to bring you a scoring rubric to be able to score these.
Okay.
And again, you can use these the way that you would like to be able to make a decision.
All right, thank you so very much.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Pradel, did you have anything? All right.
Flash drive's not reading, so I apologize.
Mr. Mayor, while they're working,
Yes.
this might be somewhat helpful, but on the scoring
Walk us
rubric,
through that? Yeah, that'd be great.
the one thing that I would definitely want to encourage the group to look at is, so like if you look at under project management, it says, it will have a statement below that. So like on the first one, it says outline specific strategies for engaging the diverse community of Kalamazoo, including how you would involve local stakeholders and businesses. So make sure to look at that sub-line before you look at the scoring parts or boxes below each of those lines. So like the second one, it says communication, discuss your reporting capabilities and how you would provide updates to the city. Does that make sense? So use that as kind of your guide for scoring the boxes below each of those statements.
Since, as we're looking at this, would you mind walking us through this, the boxes in scoring and how the totals will work on the rows, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so you'll see that like the scoring, like one, the lowest is on the far left. So that would be the box on the farthest, the boxes on the farthest left would be like a 1. And if you're scoring them higher, they'd be on the boxes on the right. So you're scoring 3 rows. So let's say they got a 5 on the first row, a 5 on the second row, a 5 on the third row. Then on the total points, you'd put that total score, 15, in that total points line.
Okay.
And then you're going to divide that by 3 to get the score for that.
Okay, thanks for all your effort on this, team over here. Questions? Does everybody feel comfortable about how this is going to work? Commissioner Payne?
Yeah, I didn't agree to this, and I don't think I have to abide by it. I'm going to make my own judgments about the way this thing goes.
Oh, it's just a tool for you to use.
It's a tool. It's an optional tool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for putting that together, and yeah, anybody can decide however they would like. Anything else? Are you all set, Rebecca?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right, good to go. Okay.
I appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Anderson, Vice Mayor Hess, and Commissioners for having me here today. My name is Rebecca Fleury, and I'm representing SGR today. We're really excited to be here. Some of you may know me, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. This morning, I was not expecting to be in Kalamazoo this afternoon, but I think I've been in local government long enough to know things change, and you need to be able to pivot quickly. So here I am, and I'm honored to talk to you a little bit about SGR. I know that they are incredible. Our company is incredibly proud and excited to talk to you about the opportunity for this monumental hire that you have. I hope that I do justice to SGR's background in executive recruiting, and that you find we're committed to this work because we were created by and for local government leaders. I'm going to talk a little bit about that and talk about our proposal as you have defined. What I first want to say is that SGR takes their foundational message of servant leadership very seriously. In their mission, it's foundational and it's built into their DNA. So they, SGR was created to help local government organizations become more successful by recruiting, assessing, and developing innovative, collaborative, and authentic leaders in local government. Again, I said our firm is unique because we were built and created by and for local government professionals, and relationships is the foundation of SGR. Let me talk a little bit about the team. Very small amount about myself. Uh-oh. There we go. Those of you may know me. I've been 25 years in local government. I started right here in this building, and I most recently retired as a city manager in Battle Creek in November of 2004 after serving there for 10 years. I got my master's and my bachelor's from Western Michigan University, so go Broncos, but I am a Michigan representative for SGR, which is one of the reasons why I'm standing here, because I could be here where there was some other delays from other people. We have another Michigan representative, Clay Pearson. I don't have a slide on him, but he will also be helping if we are fortunate enough to be selected. Who I really want to talk about is Jeff Tyne. He has been selected as our representative, as your executive recruiter, if the city of Kalamazoo chooses SGR as your recruitment firm. Jeff is an amazing recruiter. He has over 30 years in local government management. He retired as manager from Peoria, Arizona. It's a population of about 200,000 outside of the Phoenix area. But even after retirement, he continues to serve the profession, not only through SGR as a recruiter and a facilitator, but he also teaches at Arizona State University, where he got his educational degrees, and his bachelor's and his master's. And he still serves on boards for GFOA, ICMA, and other local, state, and regional associations that support local governments. I think what I have been so fortunate to be part of SGR for a small amount of time, but the passion of everybody related in the company. We are all have been in the local government profession and want to continue to serve, just in a different capacity. It may not be as the chief administrative officer, but still helping communities and leaders make sure they're successful. It's one of the things that drew me to SGR. And we understand how important this decision is, not only for the commission, but for the community. It's one of the things that drew SGR to Kalamazoo. You have a strong history of leaders and support of leaders. You have 10 years in city managers that most communities do not have, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, but the average tenure is 3 to 5 years, but you well exceed that in at least your last 4 or 5 city managers, and I think that says a lot about your leadership as elected body, the community interaction, and just your support of being a professional managed city. SGR is a full-service connection with local government. It doesn't end at executive recruiting. That's what I love about it. We do the business lines. There are a lot of things, but we do it to support the leaders in the community, to help them be successful, whether it's an recruitment that we've done or it's a community we haven't, and we're just coming in to help support leaders through executive recruiting, interim placements, online on-site training, leadership development, strategic planning and visioning, workshops, facilitations, anything and all. I've been fortunate to be in several communities, helping communities align the strategic priorities of their commission, and so the administration knows how best to make that happen, turn that into action in communities. So following your what you are asking all of our consulting firms to do, I'm going to talk about community engagement first, hopefully following the format that you provided. I know how important that is. So, we address community engagement around embracing the Kalamazoo community. We do that through a couple things. We start with our focus as an executive recruiting firm. Over 25 years, I'm going to give you some data for the last 10 years, but we start our focus with building public trust in the recruitment process. We know how important that is. We want to gain rich and broad representation and perspectives. So we have to get out and talk to people as directed by the commission to understand what you're looking for in your next city manager. We want to understand what the local topical interests are. We can't profess to know it. Certainly our teams have done a really good job of searching the internet and reading over council packets, newspaper articles, and et cetera, but that only gives us a small blip of what the Kalamazoo community is all about and what you're looking for in your next leader, because we want to make sure we ensure that the candidate that's successful is a good fit in the community. That's what it's about, a good fit. The methods and approaches we use to get there really is defined by you. We need to work with the city commission to understand what that looks like, and then take that into the community to make sure that we gather the input. We want to, through that process, after talking with you, we want to make sure we understand community values. We want to make sure we obtain community expectations, and we want to learn of what your external stakeholder priorities are for the community and for the next leader. And we are really eager to help you do that. You are very relational. It's very clear to see when you look at the information that we have so far in our studies and our research. And then we want to bring our success that we've had in placing candidates to the process. But first and foremost, we're going to be listening to the commission about what that looks like. And that could be a variety of things. That could be person-to-person interviews. That could be facilitated sessions. That could be use of online surveys, It really is dependent on what your community is looking for. And we want to make sure that we make ourselves available, not just at City Hall, but in the areas where people gather, where your community members gather. We want to be to gather that input. I know that Jeff's style of facilitated conversations are really about, first and foremost, clarify the intent of the engagement exercise. What are we looking to get out of this with any and all groups we may engage? We want to offer any stakeholder information that's needed. There's nothing in secret here. We're working with the commission to find the best candidate, and we're going to lay that all out with whomever we talk to, whether it's one-on-one or groups. And we actively listen. One of the, I would say, values we have at SGR is that we listen to understand and not to respond. That's how we learn what a community is thinking and looking for in their next candidate. It's really important that we're actively listening. And then we really do authentically enjoy the experience. It's amazing to come into other communities and see all the great things that are happening. And Kalamazoo certainly has a lot of successes to lift up. You have challenges to lift up, and we'd like to learn more about where you see Kalamazoo in the next year, the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, et cetera. In regards to onboarding process and client expectations, here's kind of the, as my grandma used to say, the soup to nuts. So it's a little bit of a hard of graphic, but I'll try to go through it a bit, and then we're going to email this presentation out to all of you. We didn't want to assume everybody wanted a hard copy, but we can do that if needed. So kind of, first and foremost, I just want to say this is a 12-week process after you approve the community brochure. That's kind of your marketing tool that we kick off the process. So after you approve the brochure, then we kind of begin that 12-week process. So prior to posting, we have kickoff meetings, organizational position insight analysis. All of this we're working with you, the commission, with the internal stakeholders, and any other group that the commission would like to see involved. The recruitment campaign is 4 to 5 weeks. I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth, but I want to get through those 4 arrows just so that you know. That's the recruitment campaign and outreach. Then there's the evaluation of semifinalists and finalists, and then you get to the candidate selection and hiring process. Let me just dive into that just a little bit, because there's a lot that goes behind those arrows, and I don't want to just read the bullets. There's a massive media campaign that goes on once the brochure is ready. I think that's one of the things that SGR excels at, and that Jeff is very good at. He taps into all of SGR's networks. That's really a hard recruitment for a good 30 days. You'll see that that broadcast, and I'm going to share a little bit of our avenues, what those look like in a minute. And then Jeff triages any and all candidates to bring forward for consideration. Okay, so we want to make sure any and all candidates are given the same opportunity before we start whittling down. But we hope that you entrust that our recruiters know how to properly triage, because there will be some that don't even meet the minimum or basic requirements, and we want to make sure that we're bringing forth those that meet the requirements that Kalamazoo Commission puts together, and once that's identified in the brochure. So once he works with the commission to identify the semifinalists, we envision that about 15, then we start the initial media searches and background checks. And that's just a basic exercise. It kind of gives us the first glimpse, the first blush at those semifinalists. That information is then all shared with the city commission as well as your identified staff person contact. I think that's your HR director. And so we work with the commission on how are you going to whittle down the 15? We have seen successful finalists from 3 to 5 candidates, but we've seen more. It's really as what you see based on the semifinalists that we bring and the attributes that you're looking for. Because it's your job, and it's our job to bring you the best candidates, and it's our job to listen to you in filtering out where we get to those finalists. So there's a lot of work to, once we get to the 3 to 5 finalists, then we do a very in-depth media search and background. We actually hire firms to do the security text, media checks, and et cetera, to make sure we're not missing anything and to make sure we can bring you candidate packets that has hopefully every question that you would want to know from each candidate when we ask you to consider candidates as a finalist. Okay, so reporting and performance tracking. Whoops, I'm going to go back one. Jeff is hyper-focused on giving weekly updates to the commission and your staff representative. He'll give many more informal updates to your staff representative than once a week, but officially, minimally, we will provide 1-week updates to the commission through the 12-week process, just so you know what's out there. We may be hearing questions that we need to ask the commission about, hey, candidates are asking this. How would you like us to approach that? Those types of things. But trust us, we will only do that if we start to see that as a pattern. We are, I think Jeff is excellent at he uses the word triage, working through candidates and making sure we're bringing the best forward for your consideration. So he probably over-communicates, but I think his motto is, I'd rather over-communicate than under-communicate. And you can tell him if you're getting too many updates or not enough. He's very open to that as well. So I talked a little bit about SGR's extensive reach and network. So, you should know that we have approximately 40,000 subscribers to our SGR weekly newsletter. You won't find another search firm with that level of reach. We get approximately 5,000 individuals who subscribe to receive our notifications about postings and city manager searches, executive searches, and we have over 20,000 LinkedIn followers. We also have access through LinkedIn Recruiter, and our job board just in the last 30 days has received 16,000 job views. SGR has been building this network for over 20 years, and it's really paid off as far as the outreach. And I think you'll see as I go through this just how important that is to successful searches. Our strength in social media marketing, LinkedIn is one thing and social media is the other, but I think you'll see our actual direct reach outs to our subscribers and our relationships are very prosperous. I'm going to talk to you about that in just a little bit. But we engage regularly with posts. This is one way that, people can follow your page on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, but if you're not actively posting, if you're not being active and dynamic, they're not going to be active and dynamic either. So we make sure that our content is refreshed on a regular basis, sometimes multiple times a day. I know that because I get those as well as a staff, and that's shared with all staff, and we talk about where we're having successes and where we have gaps that we need to fill. But anyway, I wanted to share this data statistic. On average, 47% of our semifinalists for our searches come from our SGR direct outreach. 47%. That's a lot, and that means that we have the relationships to reach out to the candidates we know that are looking for either their next assignment, a new assignment, whatever it is. We are really successful in connecting with them. So not only that, but approximately 35% of our semifinalists come from national, state, and other sources, relationships that we've already cultivated and we continue to use to bring forth the best candidates for communities. I think those are big data points. I know everybody loves data. I love data. Just a glimpse of our recent city county management searches. In the last decade, we've performed nearly 400 executive recruitments nationwide. You will not find another national executive recruiting firm with that number. Very proud of that number, but I think that comes back to our DNA in relationships and servant leadership. Currently, those are just some recently completed. Currently, we right now are working, ironically, in the city of Battle Creek to help them find their next city manager. So a little bit about our scope, our review, and recommendations in the proposal that the commission received. Our project is not to exceed price of $29,419. This includes 2 multi-day on-site visits by the recruiter. It includes recruiter travel costs. It also includes up to $2,500 of placements for associations and job boards not affiliated with SGR. We have a lot that we're affiliated with, and I'll name a few, but you probably have more that we need to include. And so please know we can use those in those agencies and organizations that we reach out to with this posting and your community profile and brochure. And then we also have a 12-month placement guarantee. If our and your candidate is not successful, we will come back and do the search again. Okay. So we think there are strengths. I'm going to come back to that one in just a little bit. I think you'll find us very competitive in our proposal. We have a whole team that takes a look at to make sure that we're competitive, to make sure we're not high or low in certain areas, but we will not, stray away from being comprehensive and engaging the community, both the commission and the community, to make sure that we are help a candidate be successful, because we're representing the city and all of you, and we want you to have the best hire. Okay, a little bit about SGR's diversity, equity, and inclusion work. Our strength is in our numbers. One of our core values is to embrace diversity through thought, promote an inclusive environment. It's beyond, I think it helps because our focus is on servant leadership. It means that we have awareness of self and others in the environment. We are constantly looking at the available candidate pool, where they're coming from, where we may have an overrepresentation or underrepresentation, and that plays into making sure that we have a robust network of candidates to reach to. If we're missing candidates, we'll rely on our relational partners. So just a few statistics. In our last full year of recruiting, 31% of placed candidates through SGR searches were female. That's a huge number because national average for chief administrative officials that are females in the profession is between 10 and 13%. So for SGR to have placed 31% is well above the national average. Over 23% of our placements were through persons of color. And I'm very disappointed to say that number is even less nationally than it is for women. That's usually lower than 10 to 13% of getting people of color in positions of chief administrative officials, and we are cognizant of that data and stress at all levels of our organization that we need to do better. And how do we do better? We need to grow our networks. So it needs to be networks that you provide, but also we have partnerships with the International Hispanic Network, the League of Women in Government, the National Forum for Black Public Administrators. They all assist to help us have a more robust and diverse candidate pool to bring to communities for consideration. We also are cognizant of the representation in your community. So if I'm correct, Kalamazoo is approximately 28 to 30% African American. We want to make sure that we're reaching out to as many African American candidate pools as we can. Same goes for Hispanic and Latina, for women. Wherever we can increase diversity and make sure that our candidates are representative of the community that we serve, we do our best to do that. We are just committed to continually improve. I'm not going to say we're experts in the diversity, equity, inclusion area. There's always room for improvement, but we do our best to stay current with those stats and statistics. And our CEO and founder, no longer CEO, he retired, but our founder, Ron Hollifield, he has been speaking nationally recently, and we are remembering his words that embracing diversity in government has become an ethical imperative. And he instills on all of us in the SGR family that we need to continually improve and do better in this area. Why Kalamazoo? Well, why not? It's a fantastic community. I know because I started here, but I know because I was one of your regional partners. You have a huge, rich tradition of professional excellence. You've had excellent leaders. You have community engagement, and that's something to be proud of. Again, I stated your tenure for city manager well exceeds the national average, very much exceeds the Michigan average as well. So that's something to be proud of. And that's something that candidates will be drawn to. That's a magnet that we see out there. Candidates are asking, you know, where can we find communities that still value professional excellence? Kalamazoo certainly is one of them. You have community passion. In all the research that our teams are doing and have done on Kalamazoo, that is evident. You cultivate relationships regularly, even if they're challenging. You're not afraid to have the difficult conversations, and you do listen to a variety of stakeholders. All of those things, I think, lift you up in the community passion area. Your neighborhood quality of life, you know how important, yes, it's important that we have good infrastructure. It's important that we are enforcers of rules and laws and all of those things, but you pair that and balance that with placemaking. You want this to be a place where people choose to live, work, and play. And that needs to be a quality and a value of your next city manager, and that's easily shared with all of the wonderful things that you're doing. You have a strategic environment, and SGR excels in a strategic environment. We love to lift that up. We love to share that with candidates. An easy search of your website and your community pages, know that you're a partner with Western Michigan University. We know about the Foundation for Excellence. We know about Southwest Michigan First. We want candidates to know all of that as well. We know you have a shared prosperity initiative. You have an Imagine Kalamazoo planning, and I can go on and on. These things are not, we don't find lists like this in every community that we make proposals for recruiting, so it's something to be proud of, and we certainly want to lift that up. And you are doing a great job in doing that. And we appreciate your strong approach to addressing some of the challenging issues. Your 2025 strategic plan is also something to be proud of. And I think just this morning you launched maybe another planning initiative over the next 5 or 10 years with the Ds, and that certainly will be shared with candidates as well. I think in talking with Jeff, and knowing Jeff, his background fits really well with this. He is a former credentialed manager from a growing community, and he wants to use his experience to find you the best candidates and lift up all the great things that you're doing. And he can use me in Michigan, if that will help. He can use Clay Pearson, who is another team member who served in the city of Novi, to help support him in these efforts. So we are thrilled and excited to find you an ideal candidate. How we be successful? For one, we have a proven track record. Again, one of the things that drew me about that is that they stick to their playbook. And there's a lot of sports analogies I've learned since being at SGR, but how they're being successful is kind of these 5 things. Their comprehensive understanding of culture, community, and organization, state-of-the-art talent marketing that reaches a national candidate pool, candidate vetting that sets up for success. That starts by listening, candidate understanding and organization of community, listening to understand, not to respond, and getting the commission and the community through a smooth, seamless process. Just a little plug. This is from our most recent client feedback over the last year. As you can see, the question was, based on your experience with SGR, do you feel comfortable recommending our services to your peers? Over 80% said that they were very comfortable. And most of the time, we get an opportunity to present a proposal through word of mouth. And we're very proud of that. So thank you so much for considering SGR. I hope I'm in my time frame. I don't have my phone that says, did I meet the 20 minutes? But I didn't hear a buzzer. So thank you. And I know that I need to then stop talking and leave time for questions from the commission.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fleur. I appreciate that very much. So we do have some stock questions that we can roll through here, 7 of them listed on a page, and certainly if there's something specific after that we want to get to, I mean, there'll be opportunity for that. I think the next one's scheduled at 5, is that correct? Yeah, sequentially. So not too bad, but, you know, short, direct answers will probably be the most helpful. You want to start with number 1 over here, Commissioner Wilson? Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. Very thorough, and thank you for being able to make it on short notice.
I'm really happy to be here.
2 questions here. One of the things that I noticed while going through your packet was that, and through your presentation here, is that you offer a 12-month, guarantee for the placement. Going through, other, firms, I'm seeing that sometimes there's a 24-month guarantee. I was just wondering if you can give us if there are any data to kind of show us how long placements are staying in these roles for.
That's a great question, Commissioner. I wish I had specific SGR data for that. I can certainly get that and provide that to the commission. We are seeing changes in recruitments right now for many reasons. You have a new set of retirees, which is leaving vacancies, but you also have people coming in and out of the profession. So, we feel very comfortable in the 12-month. The 12-month guarantee, and I personally, in 25 years, haven't necessarily seen anything beyond 12 months. However, I understand because this is a changing environment. This is not necessarily the local government environment that I came in 25 years ago. We want to recognize that. If that is something that's important to Kalamazoo, then we certainly can talk that, and I can kind of bring that back to the team for consideration of 24 months. But I think because we have such a strong relational pool of candidates and network to reach out to, we feel that we can find you a great candidate that will be successful. We won't have to worry about the 12 months, but recognize that if the candidate is not successful in the 12 months, that we will be right here helping you through that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's good to know that it sounds like it is technically or potentially negotiable still, depending on
We certainly can talk through that, Commissioner, yes.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, I was taking a look at some of the most recent searches from the last couple of years that the cities are of similar populations to us. And just speaking to the diversity, it looks like there were 4 out of the 9 candidates that I sampled here, 2 women and 2 Latino men. So that was good to see there, that it supports the DEI claims in your presentation there. And then I guess lastly, I'll ask a stock question.
Yes, sir.
I guess you kind of spoke to it in your presentation, but what steps has the firm taken to acquaint yourselves with the Midwest region?
Okay, yeah. So I know that the SGR team, while many are based in Texas, have been doing a lot of research on the Midwest and particularly Michigan and the Kalamazoo region. I think that's really important, and I think it's important that they at least have Midwest or Michigan representation on the team to answer questions of the chief recruiter if selected, and kind of understanding what we're seeing as trends and needs in the chief administrative officer roles right now in this region, Midwest and Michigan. And I was amazed at the research they had done before they kind of reached out to both Clay and I with Michigan ties to ask questions. They had already had a lot of information and knowledge, and we just kind of filled in some gaps. So, we are watching trends in the Midwest and in kind of this Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois region and Wisconsin, because there has been movement recently. What's nice is we kind of track movement, and again, Kalamazoo as a community stands above many because you've had such stable leadership for many decades. That's not always the case in other communities, so it's something that we can build on, but we certainly are watching those trends. We know, kind of some of the things that have happened in Grand Rapids and other communities that are seeking leaders, and so we're trying to learn from those, both from successes and maybe from challenges. You're welcome. Commissioner.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So next question for you is going beyond job posting for the job. What are the ways that you're searching for ideal candidates who may not be looking for a job?
Yes, I think that's true. Some of the candidates don't know they're looking yet, but we're not afraid to reach out. I think that helps with our vast network of potential candidates. Maybe I should have said not only candidates that are looking, but candidates that we might feel have the right skill set, the right experience and background to fit what Kalamazoo is looking for. I don't necessarily like the word cherry pick, but certainly if we have familiarity with a leader that has, that matches the profile that Kalamazoo puts forward, we're not afraid to reach out to that potential candidate to see if they may be interested in. We certainly do respect anyone that's really associated with ICMA, the International City County Management Association. We would never reach out to a candidate within their first 2 years. That would be an ethical violation and against the ICMA Code of Ethics. But anybody who has met that requirement, we feel like it's appropriate to reach out just to see if they're happy where they are, or are they considering a change or a different community.
Just as a kind of a tie-in follow-up to that as well, Commission expressed a desire to do a nationwide search. Do you feel confident that SGR would do that, where it wouldn't just be hyper-localized on just Michigan candidates or Midwest candidates?
100% national.
Okay.
The SGR candidate profile is national, from West Coast to East Coast, North to South. I think that's one of the things that lifts us above others, and it's why we've been successful for so many years. I mean, we are the #1 executive recruiting firm for government professionals in the nation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that, Rebecca.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Can you provide some specific placement outcomes based not just on what the firm does in targeted places, so specifics based upon outreach that you've done and created more interest in the position?
Okay, I think I understand your question. So once the community brochure and profile is live, after you all approve that, it's live, then we start a variety of things. First of all, we have a massive media push. That first 30 days, you're probably going to be sick of seeing it on LinkedIn and our other socials, because it's programmed to continually hit our network and others, maybe even beyond those who follow. But while that's ongoing, Jeff Tyne has done a really good job of then tapping into our other partners, the Hispanic Network and others, to what candidates do you know that are looking? What candidates have we seen be successful in other communities for an extended period of time that we could reach out to nationally? SGR is based in Texas, but they don't just look in Texas. They're going to look at, to your question, to my response to you, Commissioner Pradel, we do that nationally. And we have one-on-one conversations with them. It's not like we just, flash an email blast. It's an actual reach out directly and professionally. We certainly know how to get to candidates who may currently be in roles to have a brief conversation about that, but we do it very professionally. Based on kind of where we've seen people be successful. Again, we're going to build our approach off of your brochure and profile. We don't want to come in and tell you this is what you're looking for. We want to make sure we listen to what you're looking for. We put together that community brochure and profile, and that's what we're going to go out and find. We're going to look for people who are already in the role of CAO or city manager or town manager, whatever, or we know that are in transition. That means they're not currently in a role, relatively recently, or other referrals that we may get from our network partners. Did I get to your?
I think you did. And then to go off script, as Commissioner Wilson did, you mentioned that you had secured the contract for Battle Creek. Yes, and can you tell me where you are in that process with Battle Creek in terms of your weeks? And
Yes, so
do we overlap with them?
that was a talk about, at Battle Creek. Full transparency, Battle Creek was not successful in their first search, so they switched recruiters and chose SGR for the second search. So there may be some overlap, but they've already had their 30-day blast and are in the process of candidate applications are due. They may have extended a little bit. Again, I am removed from that particular search. Obviously, I've recused myself because I don't want the appearance of any conflict of interest, and so that's kind of what I see. If there's overlap, it'll be very small. Really, their initial blasts and messages are out there already, and they're actively recruiting candidates. If chosen, could SGR be recruiting from the same pool? Yes, probably, because, and I hate to say it, our pools are smaller, but they're wider nationwide, if that makes sense. The pool may be smaller in Michigan, but wider in the Midwest or wider nationally. So we know there's always going to be some level of overlap in regions, but I don't think that that one's going to be too terribly impacted by this. And certainly I think that's why Battle Creek kind of moved along their second search as quickly as they could. And SGR was an original respondent to them. I mean, so that made it a little bit easier, making sure we're following all procurement policies and processes, which is very important. So maybe a small bit, but I don't think that it will be as impactful.
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Mayor?
Thank you. So this, I don't know if this is premature or not, but it seemed like it's going to be part of what goes out in the recruiting packet. So do you have any notions now, based on our size and the market, what we might be looking at as far as a salary range?
That's an excellent question. I think that's something that the executive recruiter, if we are selected, would need to talk with the commission about. Certainly, you start with what the current manager is making. Then we do a salary comparison to the region, like your Michigan region. Then we go out to the Midwest and nationwide, and we do some comparisons of like-sized communities. I think there's been a lot of talk in professional networks about managers coming in making more than the previous manager. Let me just be frank. I know that the next Battle Creek city manager is going to make more than I did. And that is okay, because you want to get the best candidate. You don't want salary necessarily be the one why somebody doesn't apply. I'm not saying that they have to be grossly over what your current manager is making, but that is a concerted discussion that the commission needs to have with the executive recruiter as you prepare to release your community brochure and profile, that you are offering a competitive salary range. Because we're finding some negative feedback if you just put compensatory to experience, et cetera. Because candidates right now know that that there needs to be concerted effort to make sure it is competitive. And you got to remember, too, it's not just salary, it's also benefits. So, when you prepare that brochure, Kalamazoo has fantastic benefits for their staff. You want to highlight that and what the manager benefits look like, and you put it together as a package. And I think SGR and Jeff can help you through that, so that when we start the 30-day blast, that initial blast, that people are like, yep, that's a competitive salary, or that's a salary I'm willing to perhaps leave my current position for, to consider.
Okay.
It's a big decision for a candidate and their family.
Very helpful.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Mayor. It's impressive what you have. Your record is really impressive.
Thank you,
and especially I was impressed that you are so much ahead of the national trends when getting people of color in top jobs. How about your staff? How many people of color do you have on your staff?
Oh my gosh, that's an excellent question, Commissioner. I'm not going to be able to answer that. Because SGR has kind of 3 business umbrellas, I don't know if you are talking about just our executive recruiter, or if you're talking about SGR umbrella, because we have the interim placements and facilitation strategic planning.
Executive. I'm looking for the...
Executive recruiting?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't want to misquote anything, so please let me get
You can
back
get
with
back to
you.
us. You can get back to
Absolutely. Yep. Hello, Commissioner.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. Could you please share any learnings from search experience that increase effectiveness with attracting strong candidates? Specifically, things we should be careful or avoid doing that raise red flags or cause pause with candidates?
Okay, that's a big question, and I was just making a note so I can get the diversity number for Commissioner Cooney. Would you please read that again? Thank you.
Yeah. Please share any learnings from search experience that increase effectiveness with attracting strong candidates. I'll stop right there and let you answer that and then go back.
Yeah, so I think that's an ongoing process that we challenge ourselves with each recruitment. If I haven't stressed it enough, every recruitment is individualized. So, you know, a challenge that we may have had in a community in Kansas may not necessarily be a challenge that we would have in a city like Kalamazoo. So we want to make sure that we're very individualized as we prepare our recruitment strategy, working with the commission. You know, I think right now some of the things we're seeing is questions we get most often is how long has the manager been there? You know, how long is the current elected body in place? You know, and has that had a lot of turnover? And what does the manager's evaluation process look like? How are the relationships between the elected body and the manager, staff, et cetera? Candidates do a lot of their own homework. What we try to do is make sure that they're getting all of the story, if that makes sense, in every community, and not just ponder on one particular headline as representative of the entire community. So that's one of the things that recruiters do to work with candidates and with elected body to make sure we're telling the Kalamazoo story the way you and your community wants it told, so that we're being as authentic with candidates as we are out there recruiting as we can be. So the challenges have been making sure we understand from the body that we're presenting that appropriately, and that we see little nuances per candidate. It also matters where they're coming from. I'll be honest with you, people are like, I don't like the winter. What kind of winter is there in Michigan? It's cold, and we get snow, but that doesn't mean this is not a great community that you'll want to live in, because there's so many fun things you can do in the snow. You know, it's things like that. You know, we are not always sunshiny, but Michigan is a beautiful community. Kalamazoo certainly has a lot of natural amenities, so we try to lift that up. Some things we'll never be able to answer. If a candidate does not like snow, then Kalamazoo is probably not the community for it. But we answer any and all questions, and if we get if we're stuck on a question, we will come to the commission.
Okay, and the follow-up question to that was, what things should we be careful and avoid doing that raise red flags or cause pause with candidates?
I think not being as transparent as you can be is one of the biggest things. The commission does not want surprises from your recruiter, from any candidate, or et cetera. And candidates don't want surprises necessarily either. So we just want to be, if selected as your recruiter, we want to be as open and transparent as we can be. Certainly understand that the city attorney would advise on any areas in which we need to be cautious with. But other than that, I think if you're open, honest, transparent, and tell the Kalamazoo story, I think that that's the best thing that you can do as an elected body, and that we want to help you do as an executive recruiter. You're welcome. Hello, Commissioner.
Thank you. I do want to apologize for being tardy.
Understand.
To you, the community, and my fellow commissioners. So, in the firm's view, are there any specific things that make the city of Kalamazoo stand out as a community that should be promoted or emphasized? What do you guys think?
Oh my gosh, I listed a whole bunch, but it's such a long list. Where would I start with? Your community passion, your community pride, your strategic planning and visioning, your willingness to have tough conversations, your willingness to meet with community representation wherever that is. I think your placemaking initiatives are outstanding and recognized not only in the state of Michigan and regional, but nationally as well. Certainly the Foundation of Excellence is something to build on. on. The Kalamazoo Promise is something to build on. The history that a lot of your community leaders have worked so hard towards, your housing initiatives. I could go on and on. Your willingness to try things, your commitment to infrastructure, you're recognizing that there are basic services that Kalamazoo must provide, but there are other services that need to be considered, and you're very intentional about understanding what are the priorities of your community and trying to recognize that in your initiatives and particularly in your budgeting. Ultimately, your budget is a big storyteller for your community, and candidates will look at that, and you do a very good job about being transparent with that budget, because you have big departments, you have a large community that provides a large staff that has a lot of that provides a lot of services because your residents demand a lot of those services. So the list is huge, and I hope together we can narrow it to what you say is the top 5, 10 priorities you want candidates to focus on or be aware of. That really needs to come from you, but those are kind of the things that I see and we did as a team as we prepared our proposal for you. But again, it's really you. This is your search. We want to be good listeners and make sure we're advancing and have an approach that is what you're asking us to do.
That's the last question.
Yes, what is an ideal pool of applicants, and how will the city know if there is strong interest or not?
Good question. And that is a little bit subjective. I mean, I can tell you what my strong pool of candidates would be. It would be at least 30 diverse, some Michigan representation, some Midwest representation, and some nationwide representation. But that's just me. You know, we're going to bring you all of the candidates that we can that fit your profile. I think that Kalamazoo is a very enticing community that potential new city managers would want to consider and look at, not only in Michigan, certainly a buzz after your current city manager announced retirement, because people will leave their current roles to go to a community or a job that they feel better meets their skill set. But you will also have current managers who are looking to go to that next big community. You know, they've done a lot of work in smaller communities, and you know, they feel professionally and tenured, ready to try that next step. And you know, I advise not to be afraid of somebody who may be in a smaller community coming to a larger community. Purely selfish on my part. I went from a community of 3,300 to a community of 53,000, and so it's finding the right fit. And that is defined by you and your community, and that we will help you find.
Thank you. Any other specific questions, colleagues? Thank you so much. Any final remarks you would like to make as we end this public presentation portion?
No, all I can do is say thank you so much for the opportunity for SGR to be considered to find your next city manager. I know it's monumental, so thank you, Mayor Anderson and Vice Mayor Hess and all of the commissioners for your time and your questions today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Appreciate it.
I just need to get my flash drive from Clerk Borley.
Do you think that's painted on, or do you think that's tile? It's beautiful.
It really is.
I've never seen anything like that.
It almost looks like an upper tile. It's recorded. That security guy was right. There's probably not another building like this in the city. Amazing.
It's like we're waiting for Vice Mayor.
No problem. No problem. Okay.
Yeah, it's just the digital copy of the digital handout. It's just a PDF. Yeah. Based on your experience, they'd like to see it displayed. Thank you.
So they have the cart, right?
They do.
Yeah, okay.
All right, team, we all set? All right, welcome. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and appreciate the opportunity from the rest of the commission here. Those little cards you have, trying to be a little environmentally positive here. If you click on the QR code, the presentation will actually be on there. We're just going to hit the highlights, kind of in the interest of time. First of all, so my name is Dave Niemeyer. I'll be the project manager for this project with CPS-HR. I'll introduce Rachel in a second here, but so CPS-HR, we are a national HR firm. Executive recruiting is obviously one of the things we do. We also do HR training. We do salary surveys and a number of things in the HR field. We work nationally. Rachel and I are both based in the Midwest. I'm based in Chicago, and Rachel is actually not far from here. So one of the unique things about our firm is we are actually what we call a joint powers agency that was established 40 years ago by a number of other local governments. So we are not a profit-making private sector organization. So we work for local governments and we do some work for state governments, but that's our clients. We don't do work for the private sector. A little bit about my career. So I've been with CPS-HR for almost 4 years now. Do recruitments from city managers to police chiefs, fire chiefs, planning directors, you name it. We do all sorts of them. Before I was a recruiter, I was actually a city manager in the suburbs of Chicago for about 35 years and managed a number of communities from size of 5,000 to 60,000. So one of the reasons I came to CPS-HR is the reputation. We're certainly a company that does a lot and specializes in kind of outreach and stakeholder involvement, which we'll talk about. And I wanted to kind of certainly still stay involved in local governments and help local governments like yourself find the best person for the position. And certainly the city manager position, this is one of the most important decisions you're going to make, and we want to make sure that we get you as many good candidates as we can. So at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Rachel and let her introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Rachel Danke. I am located outside of Jackson, Michigan. I moved here from California to Michigan about 2 years ago. I have been in the government sector my entire career, both in Canada and also America. I have my master's degree in human resources, and I have been very lucky to be with CPS-HR since 2018. I worked in internal HR, managed benefits and negotiations, and then moved over to executive search and have have had the opportunity to do executive director recruitments, city manager recruitments, assistant city manager recruitments, and so on. I will be assisting Dave on this project, and I will be helping out with facilitating interviews, outreach, attending community engagement events, basically anything that David needs support in, I'll be there helping out.
All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about community engagement at this point. So as I mentioned in the beginning, that's one of the areas that we do a lot of, especially in city manager searches, and we can give you certainly a number of options. One of the things that both Rachel and I have done has been surveys, and we will use SurveyMonkey for things like outreach to either residents, staff, businesses, and our goal in the beginning of this recruitment is to really find out from all the pertinent stakeholders that you tell us to talk to is what do they think are going to be the important attributes that they want to see in a city manager, both professional as well as the personality attributes. What type of fit are they going to be, as well as the type of experiences they've had. Certainly, you're going to want somebody that's going to want some experience working on your project 2035 that's coming up, and has some experience certainly with environmental stewardship, diversity, and those type of issues. So that's our goal is to really get that information from all the stakeholders, and so a survey is one way that we do that. Often what we also do, which is a little bit more personal, is we will actually reach out to individual or group stakeholders. I had a city manager recruitment once where we had really over 30 individual stakeholders that we met with, and it would be people like business leaders, maybe residential leaders. You've got 3 colleges and universities. You may want us to talk to some of the university leaders. You may want us to speak to even some of the neighboring communities and just to get their impression. Again, kind of getting that same feedback as to what do they think we need to know about the attributes and priorities that the next city manager should focus on. The idea behind all this is to get you as complete a picture as possible of what all your stakeholders see as important attributes of the next city manager. So we will also do community meetings. Community meeting, we will essentially run that community meeting and kind of ask that same question about the attributes. A lot of times what we find in these type of meetings is people will often maybe want to fill some things out. Some people may not want to come to a community meeting and talk, but they want to come and listen. So we'll give handouts if people want to give opinions on the attributes and qualities of the manager. And so that's another form of community engagement that we do. I'm going to talk a little bit later. That's really the community engagement we do at the front end. There's some we do at kind of the back end, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I think now Rachel's going to talk about reporting and performance.
So with our clients, transparency and active communication are built into every stage of our process. While completing the information gathering stage, as Dave mentioned, we would provide you with updates on progress and submit drafts of brochure text and for the graphic brochure for your approval. On the QR code that you see, that is an example of where we put our graphic brochures. We try to make it as accessible as possible. So with this brochure that you would see, the handout that you'd see, it actually has accessibility tags built into it. So if you downloaded it, individuals who are looking at our graphic brochure who has an e-reader or accessibility reader, they would be able to see the graphic brochure. So we try to make it as inclusive as possible, which is why we gave you this virtual handout so you could see an example of it. Once we launch the recruitment, we'll provide weekly updates on efforts made and any candidate feedback. We want to make sure that nothing is a surprise at the end of the recruitment. So if the salary is too low, if people have concerns, we want you to know about it in the middle of it. And then we can also be available for closed session to provide updates as the recruitment is ongoing. We use multiple tools to track and record performance of our efforts, including Google Analytics and Publu, which is where the handout is hosted, which records candidate engagement behavior. So on page 3 of the virtual handout, you'll see an example of an engagement report that we get from Publu, and we can see how many people have looked at the brochure, how long they've looked at it, the pages they looked at, if they clicked a link to apply, and then there's also a sign-up form for individuals to speak to the recruiter if they don't want to call us. For cost and delivery, on page 4, you'll see an outline of our deliverables. If it looks familiar, it's because I took it directly from our proposal, just because it gives a great breakdown of what we do in each phase. For this caliber of recruitment, we would charge a flat fee of $30,000, and our finance team would send an invoice of $10,000 after each phase is completed. So there's 3 phases in total. That flat fee of $30,000 covers everything from our engagement efforts to travel, and the 2-year guarantee that was requested in the RFP. In deliverables for phase 1, we would include a summary of data from the stakeholder meetings and the graphic recruitment brochure. On page 6, under additional resources, you'll see a link to our graphic design portfolio, so you can see some of the brochures that we've created for other clients. At the end of phase 2, you'll receive a preliminary report on the efforts made and the results of the recruitment, along with resumes to review while we conduct screening interviews of who we believe are top candidates. After we complete the screening interviews, you'll receive a second final candidate report, which will have the individuals grouped in tiers of who we suggest we would suggest for moving onward. Phase 3 deliverables contain evaluation manuals for interviews that we would facilitate from beginning, middle, and end, including reference summaries and background checks. And then next, Dave will talk about onboarding.
Sure. So obviously having a kind of a very kind of clear and concise onboarding process is really the key to any successful recruitment. So as soon as you the commission approves the contract with us, we will have our staff contact you. Basically, they'll send you kind of a format that we typically use. Obviously, there may be some changes on your end. Once that is done, Rachel and I will be able to start immediately on this project. We both have the workloads that we can take this on really as soon as you're ready. So once we start the project, really that first step, getting back to what I talked a little bit about earlier, is we want to kind of gather information from you and other stakeholders about what you're looking for in the next city manager. So important. You know, we've had a lot of experience with city manager recruitments. I've been a city manager, and so I know you can't do cookie cutter recruitments. You've got to be able to find out what each individual community needs. And somebody that might be successful in Battle Creek may not be successful, here. It just, you have to have. That's why it's really important that we spend a lot of time in the beginning. We'll want to talk to you and the selection committee about, not only what you see as the important attributes, but the priorities. Maybe there's been some things in the past that you want to see done differently. We'll want to hear it all. And that's going to help us shape what we're looking for. That's going to help us when we do screening interviews later on. We're going to be able to kind of screen and look at candidates based on what you told us you want. And it'll help us actually when we frame interview questions for you later on too, to kind of frame questions based on some of your priorities. So at that meeting, we'll develop a timeline. And so one of the key aspects of that timeline in the beginning is that stakeholder input. And as I mentioned earlier on, our fee basically, if you have us talking to 5 stakeholders or 30 stakeholders, ours is a flat fee. I mean, we'll talk to whoever you need. The critical thing in terms of the time is we'd like to get those really as soon as possible, even maybe the day, even before the day the contract is signed. It's the setting up of those meetings and the calls. We will come out in person and we'll set a day to be able to meet with people. If we need a second day, that's fine. If some people can't meet and would prefer to just do it by Zoom or by call, we'll do that too. And so that's just a critical marker. When things get delayed, it's often because of scheduling meetings like that. The other thing that's going to be critical in terms of meeting schedule, and we like to do this early on, is scheduling your later meetings for when your interviews and other processes are going to take place. Look, we all have busy schedules, and we like to have dates, especially if there's going to be multiple groups involved in the evaluation of the candidate process. We'd like to have those dates set out, even though they're 3 months out, just to get them on the calendar so people block them off. I've seen it before. We'll be cruising through recruitment, and then, if we don't have those dates plugged in, then it gets delayed because of that. So that's another important thing we'll do at the beginning, which we'll need your help on in terms of just getting the stakeholders. So we will do a recruitment brochure, which we will obviously share with you for your feedback. What we need from you is, someone to help us. We want to make it a personal brochure. We don't want to put some cookie cutter, of another city app. We want pictures from here, and we don't want pictures, that we just kind of take out of our catalog. And we'll also need like the job description as well as the pay study. One of the things that we also offer is that if you'd like, since we're willing to kind of look at your pay and determine if it's something that is applicable for the market. I did see, what your last manager left. But that's certainly something we could do too for you if that's something if something you want us to do. So. So that's basically the onboarding. The critical things is getting the stakeholder meeting set up, getting the brochure in place, and I told you what we need for the brochure. And so at this point, I'm going to have Rachel then talk about the scope and responsibilities.
So as Dave mentioned, under the scope review, to keep things moving smoothly, we recommend scheduling important meeting dates, such as when we're going to do the candidate review meeting with you, and then interview dates during the initial planning and the kickoff meeting. That way we can ensure that we act quickly and we can keep candidates engaged. We know it's a competitive market right now, so the more we pre-plan, the more we can move quickly and keep those top candidates that you're interested in and keep them engaged before they're stolen somewhere else. And then next, Dave is going to talk about some of the innovative ideas that we have suggestions for.
Yes, so I don't need to tell you that, Kalamazoo, your city has a lot to offer. And when a candidate is making a decision as a city manager, a city manager, it's not just a job. I'm gonna tell you, it's like you are a major figure in the community, so you want to make sure, one, you and your family want to live in that community and that you're a good fit for that organization. And so our brochure is certainly, one of those sale pitches. Obviously, we'll do that personal sale pitch ourselves when we talk to candidates. One of the things we suggest for Kalamazoo, I think because you are a unique community and you have a lot of things that stand out, is to actually do like a video in the brochure. And, Mayor, it could be you if you'd rather have someone else do it. Something that where you talk about why Kalamazoo is a great place to live and why you want to lead this organization and what you want to see in the next city manager. Personal touch, I hope what you hear for a lot from us today is personal touch is really important to us. And things like that can make a big difference. There's an example of that on page 6, right, of the, so look at that, but we think that would be something that would be really beneficial for you. One of the things, and I certainly sense that stakeholder input was important at all ends here. We've done virtual town halls if you want to do something for the candidates. So once candidates get to be a finalist, we tell candidates, you have to expect there's going to be public parts of this, and often there's interviews, but we've done virtual town halls where residents are allotted questions, and when I say virtual, could be in person, could do both. I actually had one where we did both. And so we would basically monitor that, and just make sure the process flows smoothly and allow people to ask questions. Look, when you're city manager, you're going to have to do that anyway. So let's see how they do, when they, during interview process. So that's a couple of things we'd like to offer as some ideas for you to consider. So Rachel, you want to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion?
And just to clarify, so on page 6 of the virtual handout, there's 2 links. So the first link is the portfolio that shows all of our recruitment brochures. The second link is the example of a brochure that we did for the city of San Diego, where Mayor Gloria is speaking, and that video is embedded in the recruitment brochure. So to address the DEI portion, we're deeply committed to DEI, and we understand the fine balance of honoring these practices while remaining in compliance with new federal changes. That's why we take every effort to attract a diverse candidate pool, including posting in professional networks, such as Latinos in Government, Women in Government, and other association networks. We research associations and groups on LinkedIn that may possess diverse candidates, and we post engaging ads onto their organization site with our contact for individuals to reach out to. We also use diversity filters on platforms such as Zoom Info, which you can see an example of that on page 5 of the virtual handout. We'll also challenge you as the selection committee to have an open mind on requirements so that they are equitable and allow for equitable opportunity for candidates. To minimize unconscious bias, we anonymize identifying features during resume evaluation, but we accumulate that data and we review it afterwards just to make sure that our efforts are still progressing and that we're improving no matter what we do. After the past 3 years, 57% of our executive level placements have been people of color and/or women. And with that, Dave will close with why Kalamazoo.
Sure. When we look at clients, and obviously for Rachel and I, we do work all over, but of course we'd love to work in our backyard. I'm someone, even though I'm from Chicago, ironically when I got the call last week about us, or a week and a half ago about us here, I was actually in South Haven at the time. So I was, Michigan's a great area. It's, what's important for a recruiter, we want a successful recruitment. And a successful recruitment, one of the aspects is obviously the work we do in terms of how hard we work, unique channels that we find, marketing. But a community that has a great reputation and is considered a really good place to live is going to help a lot, and is also stable. And so obviously, your diversity, the attraction with your colleges, universities, today kind of, walking around a little bit, you've got non-chain stores, you've got a unique kind of downtown, kind of a great art scene, great outdoors. I was actually last week in South Haven riding the other side of the Cal Haven Trail, and so I said, I'm going to come out early for this one, so that's what I did this morning. It's, you've got just a lot of attributes out here. In terms of professional attributes, again, what a manager looking for is, they want something, the person you want is not somebody who's going to be a caretaker. You want somebody who's going to move the community forward. And when you have potential candidates, they want to see that evidence. Your Imagine 2025 plan, and I know you're looking to actually start the 2035 plan, which I assume would be one of the major goals of the new manager. The connective city, the strength through diversity, environmental stewardship, that's going to attract some really strong candidates, and the fact that you've put that in there will help us in terms of getting good candidates in that field. I've been very active in International City Management Association. One of the things, and it's in the handout, but I didn't mention it earlier, so one of the things that I will do for this is, because I'm still active even as a recruiter. I've been on several of those committees. I'm going to be reaching out to all of what they call the senior advisors in all the Midwest states here. Senior advisors are really retired city managers who help city managers who may be looking for a career change, maybe people who are having challenges in their job, to kind of get information beyond all the other things that we do, for outreach, to find, candidates that they think may be a good fit, and certainly diverse groups is going to be part of what we're looking at. But you've got an excellent reputation in the city manager world. I know Marcotte actually when he was ICFA, and so yeah, I mean he thinks highly of his time here, and and it's on your wall there. You've had long tenures in city managers, and mostly in today's that's so important to city managers is that they want to be sure that they're able to come in and do a job and be able to have the appropriate time to do it. So all those are really reasons why this is attractive to us, and I think our uniqueness again in terms of our experience with diversity and having placements, 57% of our placements being African American or female, stakeholder involvement, and being really just a focus on government. That's what we do. I think that's why we think we're a very good fit for you. So we're actually a little bit ahead of our time, so if you did have any questions, we'd be glad to entertain them at this point. So.
Yeah, we do. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. What's that? Do you want to start us off again? All right.
Thank you for your presentation. I'll get us started with the first question. So what steps has the firm taken to acquaint yourselves with the Midwest region?
Well, again, both of us are from the Midwest. I've done recruitments, and I have done a couple recruitments in Grand Rapids, done a few in Illinois, Wisconsin, done a few in Ohio.
Excuse me, if you could stand a little closer to the microphone, everybody. Yep, thank you.
Yeah. And with me, we got to tip this up too. So, yeah. So we've done recruitments in a number of Midwest states. Certainly through my time working for Grand Rapids, became very familiar with some of the laws and challenges you have to deal with in Michigan, which we think will help us there. So I've lived in the Midwest my whole life. So it's an area that I love near and dear, and I think it's a special place. And so, Rachel, anything you'll want to add about Midwest?
Too tall. So I'm local-ish, working outside of Jackson, Michigan. Since coming here, I've been trying to immerse myself more into the community. I joined MPALRA, and I am excited to start going to some of the conferences this year, and just assisting Dave with some of the recruitments with Grand Rapids and with some of the other Midwest agencies that we've been supporting.
Thanks. And a follow-up off-script question again. I noticed that you guys had a couple of similar searches that you cited in your packet, one being Carbondale, Illinois, and one being Gillette, Wyoming, both of which had significantly lower populations than us. And I was just curious to know what differences in approach do you guys have when recruiting for a smaller population versus one as, I guess, as similar to ours?
Sure. Well, and just, you're right, those two towns were smaller, but we've also done, we do, I've done Cincinnati, San Diego, San Jose. We do large cities, so we do all in between. The basic approach is the same. Obviously, in something like this, there may be a need to do more stakeholder outreach, just because there's more businesses, more people. But I can honestly tell you, you know, my approach from, you know, what I did in Carbondale was similar to, we did a lot of outreach when I did a Cincinnati police chief a couple years ago, and so it just was more, it was more of it, probably is what I think so.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being here. So how will your firm conduct a national search that goes beyond just posting the job, but searching for ideal candidates who may not be looking for a position currently?
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit, but then I'll let Rachel, who does a lot of our outreach, also address that. So what we do, you know, I mentioned a couple of things. One of the things we're certainly going to do is talk to the senior advisors in this area. I'm going to talk to people that I'm still connected with the profession by attending conferences. We'll use LinkedIn, and I'll let Rachel talk about a couple of other things that she does. We will also, I mean, part of our job is to not just find that person that's going to respond just from an ad. You know, and a lot of it is from, we get candidates from our database that we've built up over the years. But I will tell you, some of my biggest successes is, you know, I know managers in Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin. I may call them, and most of them will say, you know, I'm not really interested in this time, but hey, you ought to try such and such. It's a little bit of kind of a chain. And so, but the direct answer to your question is that we just don't rely on people that are automatically applying. Rachel, you want to talk about some of the outreach efforts that you do?
Absolutely. So as Dave mentioned, we have an ATS system that has over 200,000 subscribers. Not all of them are interested in city management, but that's where we start. We have a three-pronged approach with our outreach. So we start off by sending out a massive e-blast to those who have subscribed all over the world who are looking for city management roles or executive level roles. And that gets the word of mouth out there. That gets their networks going. And then also we do LinkedIn research. We have Zoom info, which we mentioned in our presentation, where we find email lists that we can send out an email blast. And then third is that headhunting individual outreach approach. Right now in the market, 70% of candidates are passive candidates. So it's really important for us to identify cities that you identify with, cities that you would like to see people apply from, and then that's when we reach out and we identify assistant city managers, the city managers, previous city managers that you liked, and we call and we do a cold call and have a conversation with them and say, hey, have you thought about this? What do you think about this? These are some of the engagements that are going on, and we try to get them excited about the role. And we do that nationwide, and that's where I come in, actually, where I assist David. I love research, and so I'm the one who goes and finds those individuals of similar cities across the nation and talk to them about the position.
Rachel, when you mentioned passive candidates, kind of what you mean by that is can people who aren't actively looking for a position?
Correct, yes. Thank you for asking that clarifying question. Yeah, passive candidates are those who are in their city manager role, they like where they are, they haven't thought about looking until we present this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Because being a city manager for Kalamazoo and how you had such tenured city managers, this is a once-in-a-career opportunity for many. So this is where they'd be a passive individual where they're not looking, but now that we put this in front of them, then they are interested.
I asked this from the last search firm as well, but you mentioned this a little bit just in that answer. You know, one of the things the commission expressed was a desire to do a nationwide search. And how do you make sure that you have a strong mix of people who are, you know, from the state, from the Midwest, you know, nationwide, all from coast to coast? How do you see that mix being healthy, and how do you make sure that you've got a good mix of each?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead? Go ahead.
So we do both in our outreach. So one of the things that we do is we will go in a radius around Kalamazoo and start talking to similar agencies around. So we may talk to, the city manager of City of Jackson or Grand Rapids and let them know that this position is coming. If your neighbors don't know that you're looking for a city manager, then we haven't done our job right. So that's where you get that blend of the local candidates, and then we start looking at similar agencies, similar cities in surrounding states, and then across the United States, and that's what brings in the outside. So there should be an equal balance of both from our efforts.
Thank you. Hey, thank you both for being here. I might have missed it during your presentation, but did you mention a timeline, a weekly time? You said you would be in touch with us weekly, but what is the timeline from hire date to hire date, from hire review date to hire a manager date?
Sure. Again, some of that depends on that stakeholder input, but let's just assume we can get stakeholders in line and that immediately after the contract and get meetings set up, and we can probably do stakeholder input in 2 to 3 weeks. That initial part then would be what I call the stakeholder input marketing brochure is 3 weeks. Our outreach period, we get your blessing on the brochure, the ad materials, which we'll look at. We always recommend a minimum 30-day outreach, okay? And with that first week, as soon as the ads go out and our email blast goes out to our database, I like to call it kind of that more making people aware, our awareness phase of the recruitment. After that first several days, that's when really Rachel and I are going to start a lot of our hard work, all the work that we just described. And that's to do that right and to get the best candidates, because what you find is the best candidates will take their time, which is fine. They'll do their research. They'll talk to me, but they won't just talk to me because obviously I'm trying to sell the city. They'll talk to other people. You got to do at least 30 days. So that's after that, we will then give you essentially what we call a client report that has our recommended candidates, and per the specs, we'll give you at least 10 recommended candidates. What we often do is we'll give you candidates kind of grouped according to a top group that they meet 80 to 90% of what you wanted in the position, and there may be another group that's slightly less than that, but we still go over that with you because there may be something you see in there. That process, and then the semifinal and final interviews, that's usually conducting those and setting those up is going to be probably another 4 weeks or so. All in all, this is probably about 14 weeks. What I always tell clients is that we can work with you on timetables, but we always discourage people, don't cut the recruitment period for what I described to you. And we just we can do it the quicker we can do it is going to be dependent often on scheduling. Scheduling is usually the biggest hiccup, scheduling of stakeholder meetings and interview sessions. So that's why it's important to get that done in the onboarding portion of the recruitment.
And my stock question here is, beyond the promotion, your promotion and your job postings, where do you get the greatest success in placement? In addition to your promo and job postings on LinkedIn and so on.
Yeah, we get, honestly, we probably, and Rachel, you may have some, we get more people that apply from our kind of initial outreach even often than we see from ads. And so, but often it's, some recruitments we'll get, some from LinkedIn. Personal outreach is always going to get you, will always go far, because people are flattered to hear from recruiters. And sometimes people are like, oh, I saw that ad, and oh, he's calling me, so maybe I really should look at that a little bit closer. So it's, I guess, the successful recruiter doesn't do just one, nor two, nor three, nor four things. You just got to cover everything. So, I mean, anything you want to add?
I think just to quantify it, I think the last time we looked at our data, 86% of our placements came from individual outreach, and then 6% was from paid advertisements, and then the rest of the percentage was just accumulation of our e-blasts, LinkedIn, and word of mouth.
First question for me, may be a little premature to ask, but just some thoughts about it. And I'm sure we'll work together on this, but how do you determine, based on our size, the market, community, all that, what our ideal salary range is going to look like? And
sure,
how can you help us with that? I don't know if you have any ideas about that yet, but anyway.
So a couple things. We actually have a very specific staff person that's one of the things that she does, and I had to do those many times in my career, and I could tell you, you'll look at. Obviously, you're going to look at Midwest cities, and it's going to be framed around population, demographics, things like that. So you'll want to get a comparable. And to me, you usually need to get, and we want to do this quickly. This is, you can do salary surveys and you can get 30 towns, but it's going to take you 2 months. But I think you can probably get, a handful, 8 to 10 communities, Michigan in the area that are kind of population and similar size. That's what we would look at. And we want to do it where, frankly, we can just call them up and you're not going to have time to send out surveys and wait 2 weeks for a survey to get returned. Right. So that's in general what we would do, Mayor.
Do you think it's important then to include that in the posting, rather than saying based on experience or something along those lines? When you're actually doing the advertising, there is a salary range that is in your communication.
Yes, I think it's critically important that you have a range, because my experience is that some people will not apply if there's not a range, because the impression, and it may be wrong, but the impression is that this is a community that maybe doesn't want to pay what the market is, and I don't want to waste my time if they're not going to advertise. Right. So I would strongly recommend that you get a range.
Okay, so just a couple follow-up things, somewhat based on comments you made. So you talked about how it's a competitive market right now, and so us not being part of watching the market, can you talk a little bit about why it's a competitive market right now, and maybe what's the lay of the land, and how we fit into that? That's one question. I actually have a follow-up after that, but I'll get started on that one, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, city manager jobs in general, especially, good city manager jobs are always going to be competitive. I'm sure Battle Creek just started their recruitment, I think, just a few days ago. I think it's a type of job that there's a lot of people who want to be a manager, and there's going to be, I think, competition from, throughout the area. I never tell communities, though, to you can't worry about whether Battle Creek or other neighbors are doing it. You have to sell your own community. And so, Rachel, you want to talk about the...
Yeah, so some of the data that we're seeing is just that there's a talent gap. So we have a lot of baby boomers who are retiring. They are burnt out from COVID. They are burning out from current political goings-on, and they're ready to retire. They don't want to deal with it anymore. So we are seeing a talent gap between the baby boomer generation, not enough Gen X individuals who are trained and ready to come up, and then millennials who they want to be a city manager, but they may not have the tenure that individuals are looking for. So we're seeing a shortage of individuals who are qualified for this role, and then we're also seeing a lot of movement in just moving out of states. So we're seeing a lot of people move out of California, New Jersey. We're seeing some people move out of Michigan for economic reasons. So those are some of the reasons why it would be competitive in this market. But the nice thing about Kalamazoo is just there's stability here. You have a great commission. There's so much diversity and so many colleges and just so much to offer. So I don't think we're going to have a hard time finding applicants. It'll just be finding the right applicant that meets all the needs that you're looking
looking for.
That's helpful. So just to follow up on that, on the recruiting side, because you talk about how important that's going to be in terms of that individual outreach. So for those that have been around for a little while and might have networks, that we reach out to, how in this place do you make sure that you are touching base with maybe those networks that are not the ones you've been used to for the last 20 or 30 years, emerging networks, whether you're talking about organizations that have not been around as long and people that stay in touch, whether we're talking about more diverse, kind of organizations and associations. How do you keep fresh and make sure you're not leaving something out because you're going back to the standard kind of arenas for recruiting? And I don't know if that is such a thing, but there's my question about that.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Mayor, and you're right. I mean, it's not just necessarily going to, the traditional city manager. There's going to be assistant city managers that are up and coming, and we're going to hit those organizations. Sometimes you talk to people in leadership positions, like there's an organization called Women in Leading Government, and you talk to some of the people involved in that, and you try to find people that are looking for jobs. I think, because I noticed that was in, I think your RFP was being kind of open to something that's non-traditional. And I think one of the things we always tell people is let's make sure that we want people that certainly have had the appropriate experience. Sometimes they may have a different education. They may not have the traditional public administration education. But they may have the experience that warrants it. And in the old days, it would always be, you got to have an MPA or you can't apply. And I sometimes still do that. We always recommend to have some flexibility in the education because you want the experience. But I think what we would do is certainly we would go to some of the heads of these, like you say, emerging organizations, talking to National Black Public Administrators, talking to the Women in Leading Government. And I think what's really important is I think getting some of these up-and-coming assistant managers that through ICMA, that's another group that we want to target too.
Yeah, appreciate it. And just one last thing, just break down, you could put it together, you said 57% placements of people of color and women. How does that sub-break down after that in terms of women and persons of color? You had lumped it into 57%, and I didn't know if that was how that plays out.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know that. Do you know? No.
You can get back to us on that if you don't know that.
We will. Okay.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you very much. I just have one question. How many people have you successfully placed in city manager positions over the last 3 years?
I have, and just city manager, not like county positions. I have placed two.
Two over the last 3 years. Were either of them people of color?
No, neither of those were someone of color, no.
Okay.
We've done a lot in other positions, but not in those recruitments.
Not in the top.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Please share any learnings from search experience that increase effectiveness with attracting strong candidates. I can repeat it.
Yeah, if you could, yeah.
Okay.
So.
Please share any learnings from search experience that increase effectiveness with attracting strong candidates.
Well, I think certainly, you always learn from every recruitment. I think one of the things that you learn is there's new networks, there's new contacts. A lot of our successful recruitments and people that we've placed are often candidates that maybe were not successful in another recruitment because they were not really ideally what they were looking for there. that we've placed in other recruitments. So we've learned, I think, how to find kind of new markets, new ways to outreach. We didn't do Zoom info till what, like a couple of years or so ago.
3 years.
Yeah. I mean, so there's different ways, I think, that we recruit candidates nowadays. So anything you want to add, Rachel?
I think just overall, the most effective way is just that we do a lot of research. We do a lot of research and we use platforms to find contact for a city manager of Grand Rapids or city manager of a town in Illinois that is a sister city to a similar agency. So those places of placing those good candidates is that we do a lot of research. And, we're always innovating. This is a brand new idea, so we're always trying different things of seeing what we can do better.
Thank you for that. And a follow-up with that is, are there things we should be careful of to avoid doing that red flags or causing pause to candidates?
That could cause candidates to what?
Red flags. Like, what can we do? What should we be careful of as a commission to avoid doing things that might raise a red flag for a candidate?
Sure. Candidates are looking, I think, for harmony in terms of councils working together is really, really important. I think they're looking to be, this is, recruiting is really any position, a city manager, it's a two-way street, you have to sell it to them, and it's vice versa. So I think the key thing is making sure that, what you do and the things that you do in your community is something that's going to be desirable to a candidate. Because this is, as I said, this is their life they're uprooting, especially if they're coming from out of state. They're bringing their family here. And so I've had candidates that, are all interested in a job, and then they'll look at a video of a council meeting and they're like, oh, I don't think I'm interested. I mean, it just happens like that. So just be kind of mindful of that.
Thank you guys for being here. I was reviewing your proposal again that you gave on the QR code. Thank you. So you got a lot of points in here about why Kalamazoo. So my question is, in the firm's view, besides what you've already mentioned here with the homework that you've done, are there any specific things that make the city of Kalamazoo stand out as a community that should be promoted or emphasized that is not in your proposal that you can tell us about?
That's not in our proposal?
Did you find anything new while you were here?
Well, while I was here today, I think the downtown and some of the unique aspects of some of the non-chain places, I think would be something that I would definitely promote. I think you've got kind of a good mix of businesses in the downtown. I think that would certainly be one that would occur to me.
Yeah, so as Dave mentioned, we took time to just sit in your downtown, and it is so beautiful and peaceful. And from maybe a selfish perspective, I'm here to stay in Michigan. This is my home, and the thought of being a part of placing the next leader of a place where my twin boys might go to college is just, I couldn't even put into words how amazing that would be to know that I'm helping set up the future of a community that my children might live in. And then also, too, something that I did learn based on research is I'm just really impressed by your recruitments that you're currently looking for. You have a neighborhood activator who's going to be the go-between between the city and the neighborhoods. If there's going to be a change, that individual is going to be talking to the community agencies. They're going to be hyping up the roundabout that's coming in. Other cities don't do that, and that is amazing to me. I've been talking about it to all my other public sector individuals. You should apply for this. This is really really cool. And then the wording at the end of your job postings, where you have in there, this is an equal opportunity city. The data that if women or people of minorities don't feel that they meet all the boxes, they won't apply. We encourage you to give us a story of why you should. I haven't seen wording like that before in other postings, and that has really stood out to me. So it would honestly be our pleasure to help put that next leader of this city and help pursue that and help push that forward.
Thank you, and I do have a follow-up to that. And forgive me if you said this and I missed it. Is this your guys' first visit to the city of Kalamazoo?
It is mine, yes, yeah.
Okay, and thank you for, speaking about how, vibrant our downtown is and is becoming, but we all know that the city is not just the downtown, and that's why I was asking, because there's other areas within our city that should be promoted and emphasized, and so that was kind of where I was going with that, so thank you.
Very good. Anything else?
There is a seventh question. Do you want to ask?
What is an ideal pool of applicants, and how will the city know if there is strong interest or not from your organization?
Well, there's an ideal pool and then there's an ideal qualified pool, right? So the recruitments that we see for city managers, and by the way, I could have answered your question earlier in more detail. We do a lot of city manager recruitments, and so it's typically we'll see anywhere from 40 to 60, but we have kind of a good depth of manager candidates from the various recruitments. Not just I do, but and Rachel does, but some of our other recruiters. So our goal again is the one that I did in Carbondale, I was able to give them, I think, 13 candidates that were candidates that did meet the criteria and ones that we thought could do the job. Of course, like any pool, there was some that were stronger than others. But I think the 10 that you have in your RFP, I think certainly is very doable, and we hope we can get you more.
Thank you. And a follow-up to that specific question, because I was going to ask about, the applicants and how many thought you would be able to bring forward to the city of Kalamazoo for us to review. If you find that you're not able to find 10 candidates, viable candidates that you think would be able to serve our city and that we think would be worth of interviewing, when would you make that decision to let us know?
Well, so that would be certainly after the deadline and obviously after we do the screening. So our goal would be to get you a pool after we did the screening. And ultimately, what we do with recruitments is our goal is to get you a candidate that you think is going to be a good fit. And if in that time frame we feel that there's not enough viable candidates, we can extend it. That's something that we do. That's not something we charge extra for. It happens sometimes because of the market, but we don't think this would happen in this case, but it has happened.
Thank you.
You want to say something?
Oh.
And as the recruitment's going, we'll provide weekly updates, so we'll tell you how many candidates are in the pool already, and we'll be reviewing resumes as it goes. So if for some reason something happens, like an economic downturn or something like that, where people are just not applying for jobs, it won't be a shock for you at the end of the recruitment. You'll know the challenges that we might be facing. You'll know how many candidates we have. So you'll be updated as we go.
Thank you.
Colleagues, any further questions at this point? All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate your efforts in coming here. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Decker.
Thank you. Just a real quick question on the diversity, equity, inclusion. Hold on, I lost my thing here. Well, I was looking at the DEI area, and it states that, you know, you have a little snippet of the questions that are down there. When you're asking if they graduated from a historically black, you know, college or university, member of African American professional or civic group, you know, those specific questions that you put on the bottom. But then I also read within the proposal that you're not going to be reviewing these factors. So when these specific questions come up, how does that come up if you're not reviewing them in the interview process? Would that be something afterwards, or I guess I'm kind of wondering where those questions would fall within that?
I'm really glad you asked that, because that actually is a snippet of, it's a screenshot from a platform that we use. So when we're looking for an e-blast list, that's actually an overview of Zoom info. So they give us a list of individuals who meet those criteria. So those aren't questions that we ask. It's actually one of the tools that we use to attract a diverse talent pool. So, but we do, on our applications, we do ask gender, if they're a protected veteran, if they have a disability, their ethnicity. So our goal to try and make that balance of placing diverse candidates, but also meeting some of the criteria that have been put out this year, is to make sure that we have a diverse pool. So every effort is made to try and make a very diverse pool, and then as we review resumes, we're just reviewing the qualifications. We're not looking at gender, race, anything like that, because we want to make sure that we're evaluating individuals based on their experience and based on their fit of what you're looking for. So our success in placing diverse candidates is making sure that we have a diverse pool to look at resumes from.
Thank you for that clarification, because I was a little confused. I'm like, wait a minute here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. So are we all set? Team, okay, once again, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And you'll be hearing from us.
We really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. Our commission meeting, we're going to have to.
Yes, that's great. But in the last 2 minutes, he got loose. He just took over. Where should we go now?
Hi.
Should we go now?
Well, we should take one before the meeting, I think.
is where their handout was.
What?
This is where their handout was.
Yes, I know.
Oh, yes. We can rank them.
So, are we all set here? I think we're set. I don't want to shortchange this next crew, but we are going to have to take a little break before our business meeting at 7.
Will be from Raftalus. We'd like to invite her, Pamela.
Okay, there we go, there we go. Welcome. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, Mayor and Manager and Commission members. It is a privilege to be with you all this afternoon. My name is Pamela Weidman. I am here this afternoon representing Raftalus. Raftalus is a firm. As a firm, we pride ourselves on helping local governments and utilities thrive by providing management consulting expertise to help transform local governments and utilities. Tonight, I'm going to be talking to you about your city manager search and our proposal. You asked specifically about the search manager team. I am Pamela Weidman. I will be accompanied by a team you see, and I am one of the lead recruiters. If successful here, I would serve as your lead recruiter, meaning that I would be your day-to-day contact for the city manager search. I would be assisted by a team here, Ann Lewis potentially, and Naila Harrison. What's interesting about our team is both Ann and I, we've worked for local governments. I am a 30-year local government, served as a Housing and Neighborhood Services Director for the City of Charlotte, North Carolina, and has worked in several local governments. So we understand the importance of good city management, good governance, and helping you all as a commission achieve your goals. And for me, some of my personal North Stars are commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, community engagement, which we'll be talking about here, and again, helping you reach and achieve your goals. So what sets us apart is we have a depth of resources. We have more than 190 consultants across the firm, but specifically to executive search, we have a team of 9. Of that team of 9, 8 of us are female, and 3 of us are African American. So again, we, as a firm, we understand the importance of diversity, and so we will work to make sure that we help you with your diversity goals as well, which we'll talk about. Since we've been working, we have placed successfully 50 city managers. That's our collective experience. We also have national experience, so we work across the country, and we work in the Midwest as well to make sure that we find a candidate that fits what you want here in Kalamazoo. We have a robust subscriber list of about 3,800 subscribers to our jobs. Again, I said we have local government expertise, and then the candidates will receive personalized services from, again, the lead recruiter, and again, I would be your point of contact. One of the things that also sets us apart is when we start a city manager or any recruitment is we establish first your goals. So we work with you to understand what are those things that are important for, in this case, it would be your next city manager to know and start to accomplish within the first 12 to 18 months. That's really important for you, that's important for the candidate, and eventually, if you so choose, you could use that as an evaluation tool. So we would work with you all to make sure that we understand what are those some of the important goals, first year goals for your next city manager. You talked about the community engagement strategy. We like to do community engagement on the front end and also on the back end. One of the ways that we do that, we want to provide options, so let me say that, but one of the ways that we do that on the front end is we would spend time with each of you to understand what you're looking for in your next city manager, and then any individuals or groups that you led us to, we would spend time with them making sure that we got their input too on what is needed in the next city manager. And again, on the back end of the search, when we
we get down to your final candidates, we could help you design a community engagement process as a part of that final interview process. Other things we can do is online surveys. I talked about the meet and greet, and then one of the things we do in terms of helping design your final exercise for your city manager is perhaps a presentation that might take the form of something like this, so that you can hear from each candidate, so that you can hear from them in a community engagement setting. So in terms of reporting and performance tracking, we want to work with you. We want to understand what meets your needs, what you would like to see in performance tracking. One of the things that we could provide you updates, again, whether that be weekly, whether that be bi-weekly. One of the deliverables that you will get early in the process is what we call a recruitment plan. That will contain the key milestone dates of the recruitment that we would collectively agree on. So you could refer to that at any time to know where we are in the recruitment. And I will talk about the specific timetable for the recruitment as I go along. Let's see, so regular updates, candidate review material. This is another thing that I believe that sets us apart as well, is once we get down, we will bring you kind of the first round of candidates after we've done phone screens. We will put together for you a robust candidate review material of kind of the candidates who rise to the top. So the top 10 candidates or so, you'll be able to see the phone notes where I've engaged with them in individual telephone screens, and then I will talk to you, if we're successful, about kind of why these are the top candidates for your consideration. And then you will also have a comprehensive package of interview materials at the end of the process. So that kind of covers the reporting and performance tracking throughout the process. In terms of our cost and structure, you saw in the proposal where our total fixed fee is. We like to break that down for you. We bill you per activity, so you can ensure that we've delivered before we're ever paid. So in terms of how that breaks down per activity, 37% of that will come kind of in activity 1, 33% of a payment would be due after activity 2, and then that final payment would be done after activity 3. We talked about advertisement and background checks in our proposal as well. So just want to make sure that we have covered that. Some of the things that we do, we want to provide each candidate a personalized process through this. They will know who I am, I will know who they are. Again, we'll be talking with you all throughout this process too. In terms of the timeline, and I'm going pretty quickly, Mayor, because I heard you say you needed to speed through this, but this process, after we have a contract signed, is a 12 on the low side or the fast side to a 16-week process. We are impartial in our work. We source candidates, again, nationally, and we'll also focus on key states or key localities that you all tell us to. We'll focus on places that have similar issues that you all do, similar sizes, but we want to bring you a national recruitment, and we will do that. We've talked about the recruitment plan. We thoroughly vet the candidates. Let me just spend a few minutes right here. So I talked to you about a candidate review. We will do an initial kind of scouring of candidates in terms of background before we do the candidate review. As you decide who you want to move on to the semifinal process, we'll do some more internet research, make sure nothing's happened over the 2 or 3 weeks since we talked to them, and then when we bring you final candidates, we'll do another internet research, and then of course, once you are down to your final candidates, we'll do thorough background checks on those. And so we are vetting candidates all along and through the process. You also asked about our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I told you a little bit about the firm. Raftellus as a firm is committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We, through our recruitment process, we are committed to that as well. I've been a member of ICMA for about the last 20 years. I'm also a member of the National Forum for Black Public Administrators. I know many colleagues through there. We also search or source candidates from the Hispanic networks and our Asian networks. So we are committed to bringing you a robust pool of candidates that is very, very diverse. If you ask about some stats for us, 39% of our recruitments have resulted in hiring females, 21% of our recruitments have resulted in hiring people of color. Again, if I needed to break that down a little bit further, in the most recent 12 months, 54% of our placements have been male, 42% have been female. In terms of ethnicity, 56% of those have been white, 18% of those have been black or African Americans, 6% have been Hispanic or Latino, 8%, and then 6% have been Asian or 7% multiracial. So again, we're very committed to diversity and being parts of those groups. Not only are we members of things like of organizations like ICMA and NFBPA, but we serve on boards. I serve on committees, my colleagues serve on committees, so we are really committed to the organizations. So why Kalamazoo? You guys are doing a lot of great things here. You've had long tenure in city managers, and so we love working with communities like yourselves. City management, recruitment, we're very familiar with that. We do a lot of that. You all have a lot of great things going on here. Your Imagine 2025, your Imagine 2035, and I love the way you talked about planning it, designing it, your taglines that you have on there. I think it was imagine it, plan it, design it, and then execute it. Draft it and then execute it. You have lots of community engagement here, your foundation for excellence. Again, you're vibrant, you're diverse, you have a strong economic base, you have the different institutes of higher learning here, and then your healthcare access. So Kalamazoo is definitely the place that we're interested in working, and I'm sure candidates are interested in coming here to help build on the great innovative work that you all are continuing to do. With that, again, with respect for time, Mayor, I will stop here, and I am happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, and I'm sorry about that pressure. You're doing just fine, though, so.
And I'll advance the slides that I didn't advance.
Thank you. So we do have some standard questions. There may be some individual questions. Are you comfortable starting at this end again? Commissioner Wilson, yes.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. Quick question on the Midwest region. So I noticed that a lot of your searches here, specifically for city manager, vary from the East Coast to the West, a couple in the Midwest, but I was just wondering what steps has the firm taken to further acquaint themselves with the Midwest region?
Yep, so we've been doing, again, a lot of research on Kalamazoo. Like I said, really intrigued as a former local government employee about your 2025 and 2035, I'll say, comprehensive plan. The work that you're doing with your foundation there. We have done some work, as you alluded to, we've done some work in Kansas, city manager. We've done some work in Ohio. We have an office located in Ohio. So we've done work out here, and we continue to learn about you as a city and look forward to learning more about you if we're the successful firm.
And then I have to note, sorry, let me go back to my notes here. Just to, on the point of diversity, I followed up with a couple of the relevant searches that you guys provided 4, and out of the 4, I did see that 2 of them were minority, one being a Latin woman and one being a black woman. So kudos for sticking to your mission there.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
I think we're just going down the row here.
Okay.
Good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So how will your firm conduct a national search that goes beyond just posting the job, searching for ideal candidates who may not be looking
Right. And so what we find is some of the best candidates are not looking, right, because they're in a job. So we would do our postings, we would do our LinkedIn, but we've done a number of city manager searches. We know the good candidates who were the top 2 or 3, but they were not as successful in those former searches, and so they may be still looking. And so we will reach out to them. As I said earlier, we are members of organizations like ICMA, NFBPA. Those are largely made up of city managers, assistant city managers, people who are looking for that great next location. So we will target them, we will call them. The recruitment specialist that I talked about, that is one of their jobs, is to make sure that we have robust outreach. So we'll do our normal postings, but we are also actively reaching out to people. I have other recruiters, my fellow recruiters, so they know people with whom they've worked who are still looking, and so we'll do a combination of outreach and then calling people and working our networks and people that we know who are looking for the opportunities like this.
Great, thank you. And in terms of what you perceive as a healthy mix of candidates, how do you view the need to have, say, local state candidates, regional, national in that pool to know if it's a healthy national search?
Ideally, we would like to have the mix as you just stated, Commissioner, but we also want to make sure, again, it's diverse as well. And so it's not just about local, state, and national, but we really also want to look at that diversity and making sure that we're reflecting who you are as a community in that pool.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela, for being here. Before I go to my question here, how would you sell Kalamazoo and the Southwest Michigan region to candidates who may not know about it? What would you say to them?
I definitely think you have, I think Kalamazoo sells itself, right? So you have your health care, you have your institutes of higher learning, you've got your great comprehensive plan that you have going on, you have your foundation that is helping you with matters of the city. Many cities don't have that. And so you as a council, the way you govern, the way you work together, city managers will be looking at that as well. So I think all of those things are selling points.
Okay, cool, thank you. But beyond your promo and your job posting, where do you get the greatest success in placement? Is it all just promo and job placement, or where does the greatest success come from?
So every recruitment is different. I will say we do get a lot of calls from our outreach, right? So people feel good about firms reaching out to them to say, we have this opportunity, are you interested in it? So I think our greatest success comes from our outreach.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So once again, this may be a premature question relative to all this, but how will you help us in terms of determining what the salary range should be when we post this that will attract people and be fair, but get to the pool that we need to get to? What's their process for going through that?
Sure. So I love that question, and thank you for asking that. I definitely think it's important that you have a hiring range in your brochure that we will help design. I think that attracts people who are really serious. But to specifically answer your question, I think candidates will have done their research on what your current city manager makes, but we will look at kind of surrounding market. We will look at cities your size. So we'll look at the market and help you work through that based on what the market is and what cities your size are paying, and kind of what some of your challenges are as well.
I appreciate that. Just relative to that, we've heard some comments comments about it being a particularly competitive market right now. I guess maybe boomers retiring, just the challenges of governing writ large, I guess, right now. Do you think that's is it a more challenging time? And is that also pushing salaries too, do you think?
Yes and yes. It is definitely a more challenging time, and I do think that has an impact on the salaries. Again, Kalamazoo, you guys, it's a great place to be. You have lots of things going on, and so you might be more competitive than many cities.
Yeah, okay. Helpful, appreciate that. Mr. Cooney.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for being here. I just have two questions. One, could you go over a little bit more about how you would advertise the position?
Yes, sir. So we will do a brochure. We will, one of the things that we build with you all, I mentioned a recruitment plan. And so you all will see a recruitment plan. In that recruitment plan, not only will it tell you the key milestone dates, but it will tell you specifically where we're going to advertise the position. If you all know of other places that you want us to advertise that we have not included in that, we will do that. But typically for a city manager position, it is ICMA, it is National Forum for Black Public Administrators, it is engaging local government leaders, and so on. I won't quote them off the top of my head. We'll do that. We'll do our LinkedIn postings. Again, I work with a team of other senior recruiters. They have networks, and so we'll all be sharing among our networks to advertise the position. And then one of the things that we say, too, is when we do our outreach, if this position isn't for you or if you're not interested, we appreciate referrals. So often people that we send to through outreach will send this on to one of their colleagues that might be looking for it as well.
Okay, thank you. The other question was getting a pulse of the community. What would you do about that?
So let me say, we would take your lead, right? You know Kalamazoo, but what we typically do is, again, I would spend individual time with each of you. If you all had other people that you suggested that I talk to, we would do that in discovery meetings as well. And we, like I said, at so that's early in the process, and then on the tail end of the process, as we're designing that final interview process, we would recommend some community engagement in there, and then we have a semi-final process in there too. So primarily, though, it's on the front end. You direct me, and then on the back end, we build that into the final interview exercises.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. Please share any learnings from search experience that increase effectiveness with attracting strong candidates.
Yeah, so I would say we're learning every day. Other places to advertise, so maybe we didn't advertise with a certain group or organization in a previous search. We're always seeking to build and write more attractive brochures. And again, just sharing with our networks, getting it out more places really increases it. One of the things I would say too that we pride ourselves on is if we're successful, I would be the main point of contact, right? So candidates, they would know Pam, they would know how to reach me, so they're not left in the dark throughout the process. Even when you all get down to choosing who your semifinalists are, anybody that we talk to and we invite to participate, we're letting them know where you are in the process, right? We say, one of the things I say is, if I'm quiet for a few weeks, we're working, we haven't forgot you, but the follow-up and the follow-through with the candidates, we learn makes really great, successful searches.
Okay, thank you for that. And then a follow-up. Are there things we should be, as a commission, be careful of or avoid doing that might raise red flags or cause pause with any specific candidate?
Sure, thank you for asking that. Again, one of the things that we see is folks who are interested in being the city manager, they're probably watching meetings, as many meetings as they can watch, right? If they're local, they're staying up on the news, on the issue. So good governance, as you all have already, they're looking at your initiatives, kind of how the commission participates or is interested in what's going on in the city. So they're interviewing you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. In the firm's view, are there any specific things that make the city of Kalamazoo stand out as a community that should be promoted or emphasized?
I would say continue doing what you're doing. Your diversity, your comprehensive planning process, your access again to the higher learning. You've got Pfizer here. You've got a great economy, and your partnerships with your foundations. I mean, I think those are all great things, and the longevity of your city manager. I mean, that's unheard of around the country. So that's to be. You guys are to be applauded for that.
Thank you. And last question is, what is an ideal pool of applicants? And how will the city know if there is a strong interest or not?
So I'll take the latter part of that question first. So we talked about weekly updates or whatever you all decide. So we'll be updating you on what the candidate pool looks like. A strong candidate pool would be a diverse group of people, a national people from across the nation, or from across the country, people, state, local, and also just a diverse mix of applicants as well, and people with experience. Obviously, you want that.
Thank you. Within your proposal, I don't know if I saw that, but is there a specific number of individuals that you're looking to bring forward for the commission to review?
So ideally, we would bring you the top 10. In some cases, I mean, it may be more than that, right? We won't bring you. We won't bring you more than 15 for sure. Ideally, it would be the top 10, because that's where we're doing our job, to really look through all of the applicants that you get and to bring you the top 10 and make sure that they are the candidates who are meeting your minimum and your maximum qualifications and what you tell me you need in our individual conversations in your next city manager.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Other questions, follow-ups, colleagues? So anything you'd like to close out with? There is some time, so you want to go ahead.
Again, I would just like to thank you all for the opportunity to be here and to spend some time talking with you all. Again, as a former local government employee, I thank you for what you do and where we are. So again, hope to be back to your great city and look forward to answering any questions that you might have even after I leave this evening. So thank you.
Thank you very, very much. So I'm just going to ask you a little personal question, just as we do. How long then have you been with Raftelis?
Since 22.
Since 22?
Yes.
Okay, great. And is there your title, senior manager, but it looks like you're also doing this work yourself. You will be the person that we will be dealing with. Is that accurate, or what does that look like with your team of three? Yeah.
So if selected, you all said that you wanted to see the person today who would be leading the work.
Yeah.
And so I am here to tell you that I would be leading the work. I would be relying where necessary, like our recruitment specialists. We have several recruitment specialists, and then I have colleagues who have served in city manager roles, and so we work as a team, but I would be leading the recruitment and your main point of contact.
Thank you so much. Thanks for verifying that. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, team, we haven't really talked through, exactly what we want our process. There's been recommendations we need to pause and wait and that sort of thing. So there's different things we need to think about how we want to move forward with this. I know that we don't want to move, too quickly, but on the other hand, we've been hearing what the time frames are here as well. So you've got to start looking at the calendar and thinking about what that means for all of us. So that all said, I'm just looking for some proposals, about how we want to go on our next step here in terms of how to move this forward. Any thoughts, discussion about that? Commissioner Cooney, yeah.
I think we have to move on this. I think, though, that we should give people in the community a chance to comment, and we already are going to be here next Monday. Why don't we have a meeting on Monday with the idea that we're going to decide on Monday what we're going to do with this? Because I think it has to be fast, but I think tonight's a little bit too fast, and we don't give people a chance.
Other thoughts about that? So remind me what our schedule is next Monday. It's closed session starting at 5, correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
All right. And that, are we imagining that as an hour-long closed session or longer?
At least an hour.
At least an hour. So that means possibly having a special meeting after our closed session, which could start at 7 maybe?
Or 6:30.
Or 6:30? I don't want to give short shrift to the closed session and have us feel rushed.
7's fine.
Well, since the meeting starts at 5 p.m., then when you're done in closed session, you will move into the next agenda item, which would be the selection of of a executive search firm. So
okay.
I don't think 6:30 or 7 is.
It doesn't matter exactly. Okay.
It will be the next item.
When we'll have this closed session, we'll still meet in open session and make a motion to go to a closed session. So that's how that will start, and then we will leave and go to our closed session. And when that is over, we will come back, when we're finished with that work, whatever that is.
Correct.
Commissioner Prado.
My only concern is that how community will know when to be here to start, So like, if I'm a person who was wanting to stick around to give feedback or do open comment, that could be a wide range, because, part of me doesn't want to feel like you're rushing whatever the closed session's about, but I also don't, I've been at county meetings where you show up at the meeting when they start, and then you sit there for an hour waiting for them to come out, not knowing when they're going to come out, and then people get frustrated and just get up and leave. So I appreciate that we don't do that, but, so I don't know if it would make sense just to give some space in between. I don't know if it would work for everybody's schedules to say, closed session at 5, come back for abbreviated meeting, just select the search firm at 7, so that way there's some buffer. But I don't know what other people's schedule look like.
I'm going to look to City Clerk Borling, because, to me, that sounds practical, but Scott is the one who will actually post this and has more experience in that.
One suggestion is we could do do this work first and then have the closed session. That's an option.
Since we're having outside counsel at that time, I do not know the availability after, if we were to flip-flop. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is just logistics, basically, so, it's...
Logistics.
Commissioner Hoffman?
I think we should just set the time, 7 o'clock. And community has an opportunity to come back and also email this week. And I suggest that our networks, that we offer them the ability to go back and watch what happened today, in case they want to have something to say as well.
Great. And we also have, we have this on the agenda at the end of the meeting. Will there be public comment during that, or will we be accepting public comment at the beginning of the business meeting for this, if anybody is so inclined?
I would advise you have to provide public comment before you go into closed session, but I would encourage maybe the public, if they're able to try to come to the 7 o'clock to give feedback, because otherwise it's just going to slow down us getting to the 7 o'clock meeting on time without having to rush whatever the business is in closed session.
Right, so we're talking about our business meeting agenda for this evening, which we have unfinished business J. So I would suggest, there's a variety of ways we could do it. sort of decide how we're going to move forward right now, I think. We're laying that out. So, we're not going to go ahead and say, okay, now we're down to J here in our business meeting and we're going to decide tonight. So we've already determined we're not going to do that. So, is that still an agenda item for tonight or not? I would think not. And so, once again, there'll be an opportunity at our business meeting for public comments on whether it occurred here. There'll be an opportunity for people to review in the community what has been presented here this evening and put together their thoughts on that. Then there'll be an opportunity when it is on our agenda, which is going to be very focused on this decision at 7 o'clock, to talk during public comments. And I presume if it's a regular agenda item, I presume there are public comments on that as well. So there'll be 2 opportunities at that meeting for public comments. Anything, Commissioner Wilson, were you thinking? Or?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I had a separate thought going. Would it be possible, I know a couple of the firms had some follow-ups that they were going to give us. Can we request that they give us those prior to next week's meeting?
Yeah, I think with all due speed, we should be getting those hopefully yet this week, and somehow or another that will be communicated, I think, which I'm sure we can figure out how to do that. Does that sound okay? Is everybody okay with that? Okay. Well, so first of all, thank you. I just want to say a couple thank yous, and thank you to my colleagues. We're working together doing this. Hopefully our interviews look good for anyone that's looking at coming here, that we do work together. And also, I just do want to say there's been a ton of extra work done by this group, and which was over Memorial Day weekend, a lot of reviewing the packets, and you can even tell from the questions, continued deep review on this process. So it's extra work. I just think you've done a fabulous job. I really, really appreciate, the options that you have brought us, seriously, and all your extra work on that. So thank you so very much. And I want to say thank you very much for everyone who's attending these, showing their interest. We now have an opportunity to share with our friends and neighbors, what you experienced here, the presentation that was done, and some time now to come back and provide public comments to us prior to that decision. So thank you so very much for that to everyone that's here and watching. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I did. I wanted to also give gratitude to James Henderson, our Director of Human Resources, who is a point of contact and convening for us. And he's been really wonderful in this process, and he's also going to be a point of contact for the city moving forward. So thank you so much for that, James. Appreciate you.
Yes, thank you, sir. At this point, there's another opportunity for commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments at this time? Okay, just a reminder, our business meeting starts in about a little less than 15 minutes at 7 o'clock. I have a nice full agenda there of a lot of great actions for the city. And for this meeting, we are adjourned.